So there's another one of the eight controllables that we've been really haven't talked much about, but it comes into movement and exercise. And don't confuse them. They're extremely different. So exercise is what we would all consider going for a run, weightlifting, hopping on a Peloton, doing some speed agility training, doing a hike, climbing stairs, all of these types of things that are intentional exercise. Okay, we're going to the gym, we're physically getting ready, gearing up to go do something. Versus movement, which is not sitting in a chair for 8 hours a day on Zoom calls, but rather getting up and moving around. In a car ride, being able to get out and walk around at some point. When we go back into offices, being willing to at lunch walk around and go for a walk or meditate or do some yoga poses or whatever it may be. So there are two very different things. And there was a big study done that actually showed that HRV, the higher your HRV is, the more fit you are. And so there's a heavy correlation to movement, exercise, and high points of HRV. Now, I'm going to share my screen with you because I was actually asked a really great question the other day. And it came into this whole concept of HRV because this is the one controllable. So, exercise and movement. This is the one controllable that can actually cause your HRV to go down. And everyone's like, well, what do you mean? Like, how does this happen? Because remember what HRV is. And I've said this a few times now. HRV is how your body is handling the stress that's placed on it: mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional. Your body doesn't know the difference. Now, when we're training and we're creating exercise and we're doing maybe something new or longer distances or a new workout program or higher weight or reps, we actually acutely, so for the next day, 2 days, 3 days, we may actually see a decrease in HRV. And remember, if we see a 3-day decrease, what does that mean? If you haven't watched the immune function one yet, be sure to watch it. Really important. But when we add this, we actually may see an acute form of decrease in HRV. A great way to test this out, and if that's really all it is if we take an off day or we give yourself some type of deload week where you're not adding weight, you're not adding distance, you're not doing more reps, but something that you've done before, if your HRV actually rebounds and comes back the other direction. And so, anytime that we are adding something new, anytime that we are going at a higher intensity, a greater distance, adding some type of new load, we may acutely see that decrease in HRV. And that, again, is okay, guys, because if we go back to the concept of what Elise and I talk about with those circles tied to purpose energy, okay, physical, emotion, or mental, emotional, spiritual. Building capacity happens from the outside in. So, in order to build capacity, in order to handle more, in order to make sure that HRV does increase, because people who are fitter have higher HRVs, their trends are just higher. That's just the way it is. It's science. And if we can be fitter, we can build our capacity and build our resiliency to handle more. So, if we can open up and really focus on straining ourselves and putting ourselves in that discomfort space, so in that 4 quadrant space, and focusing on overreaching, but then also regenerate, we are going to see that, again, not only do we end up operating in ownership physically, but we're also going to build our capacity. So if you've never run a mile before, okay, and all of a sudden we run half a mile one day, and then the next week we run half a mile for a week, then we run 3/4 of a mile for a week, then we run a mile for a week. Well, all of a sudden, that's increasing load over the course of those 3 weeks. But over the course of that week, that half mile is going to get easier. That half mile is going to show, and we're going to be able to understand how our body's responding to running that half mile, three quarters, and full mile. So by taking exercise and knowing that acutely it can drop your HRV, but in the long term is going to create an increase, super, super important. Now, when also coming back and looking at this, exercise, how should this be done? We should be looking, and how do we implement this? We should be looking at having exercise intentional exercise 30 minutes a day. Okay. And now that's a baseline, that's somewhere to start. It can be that you're doing 60 minutes of intentional exercise a day or 90 minutes. It doesn't matter. But this is a place to start because, again, there was a study done at the University of Connecticut that saw people that did intentional 30 minutes of exercise a day had 20 to 25% higher HRVs, which again goes back to a sense of wellness, fitness, and overall health. Now, when we come into the movement side, what does that mean? It means, again, when we're just sitting, there's nothing that we're doing that's growing. There's nothing that we're doing in terms of strain or really any type of optimization for us. So for movement, what we should look at is moving every 90 minutes, whether that's setting an alarm, whether that's just being intentional and putting it into our calendar. Hey, every 90 minutes, I'm giving myself a 5-minute break. Or between 60-minute calls, giving yourself a 10 to 15-minute buffer in between so that you can go get a drink of water, go to the bathroom, go for a 5-minute walk, maybe do a little meditation, a little breath work, whatever it may be, so that you're getting in that movement throughout the day. And that's the key here, guys. It's really, really simple. But knowing that when we hit our exercise and we hit our movement, it's going to, again, optimize that HRV level. In summation here, you may see a small decrease, an acute decrease in HRV when you're adding some type of new higher intensity exercise because it's a new stressor placed on your body. But over the long term, as you get used to that, as your body becomes more resilient to it, as you build capacity, it's going to increase your HRV, which is going to allow you to have more, hold more, have a bigger cup to take mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical stress a lot better. And it starts with exercise, and it starts with movement. Go back to those 4 pillars, those 4 quadrants that we spoke about, these circles on the outside in, so that you can ultimately own it.